The massive warship Bloodclaw drifted through the darkness of space like a hungry predator stalking its prey. Inside the ship's War Council chamber, the air was thick with tension and the smell of blood from recent victories. Supreme Hunt Commander Vexithara stood tall before her officers, her 8-foot reptilian body covered in ritual scars that told the story of 1,000 kills. Her yellow eyes swept across the assembled Vraktar warriors, each one a perfect killing machine bred for. What? Their razor-sharp claws could tear through steel, their armored scales could deflect most weapons, and their enhanced senses could track prey across entire star systems. For 3,000 years, they had been the apex predators of the galaxy, and every civilized species knew to fear the sight of their black ships. "My brothers," Vexithara spoke, her voice like grinding metal. "We have found new hunting grounds." She gestured to the holographic display that showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. "This world is called Earth, and it is home to a species known as humans." Sub-Commander Kralvex leaned forward, his interest piqued. "What kind of prey are they, Supreme Commander?" "The weakest we have ever encountered," Vexithara replied with what passed for a smile among her kind. "They have no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no armor. Their skin is soft and easily torn. They appear to be completely defenseless." The other officers made approving growls deep in their throats. This was exactly the kind of easy hunt they enjoyed after the brutal campaign against the crystalline Veltari, which had taken decades to complete. War Master Thekvar stood up, his battle-scarred hide telling stories of 50 different conquered worlds. "What of their technology? Do they pose any threat to our ships?" "Primitive beyond belief," Vexithara dismissed with a wave of her clawed hand. "They use kinetic projectile weapons that fire small metal pieces. Their explosives are crude, chemical compounds. Their aircraft are slow and clumsy compared to our hunters. They have barely achieved travel to their own moon." She paused, savoring the anticipation in the room. "Intelligence reports show they have approximately 8 billion individuals on their world, more than enough for a proper culling season. The High Council has approved this system for complete harvest." The mention of a culling season sent waves of excitement through the assembled warriors. These were the Vraktar's favorite times, when they could hunt an entire species to their heart's content. Some would be taken as trophies, others as slaves, and the rest would become food for the Empire's growing population. "What about their military forces?" asked Pack Leader Drakmor, always practical in his approach to warfare. "They fight wars against each other using the same primitive weapons," Vexithara explained. "Their largest weapons are nuclear devices, but these are so crude they pose more danger to themselves than to us. Our ship shields can easily deflect such attacks." She activated another display showing human military formations. "Look at how they organize themselves. They stand in lines, march in formation, and follow predictable patterns. They have no understanding of proper hunting tactics. They fight like prey animals trying to protect their herd." The War Council erupted in the harsh laughter of predators who had found easy meat. For centuries they had faced species that at least understood the basic principles of warfare. The crystal beings had been tough, the metal creatures had been clever, and the gas dwellers had been elusive. But these humans seemed to have no advantages at all. "We will begin with a scouting mission," Vexithara announced. 3 hunter squadrons will test their defenses and identify the best specimens for capture. Pack Leader Drakmor will lead the advance force. Drakmor bowed his head in acknowledgement. "It will be an honor to draw first blood in this hunt, Supreme Commander. Once we have confirmed their weakness, the full invasion fleet will follow," Vexithara continued. 500 ships should be more than enough to subjugate their entire world within a single rotation of their sun. The officers began to discuss the details of the coming invasion. They talked about which cities would provide the best hunting, how to preserve the choicest specimens, and what kind of trophies they might claim from this new world. None of them had any doubt about the outcome. As the meeting ended and the officers filed out to prepare their forces, Vexithara remained behind to study the images of Earth. Something about the blue world fascinated her, though she could not say what. Perhaps it was simply the anticipation of an easy victory after so many difficult campaigns. She had no way of knowing that far across the galaxy, Primitive sensors on Earth had already detected the approach of her scout ships. In military bases around the world, humans were preparing for humanity's first contact with alien life. They had no idea what was coming, but they were getting ready to fight anyway. The hunt was about to begin, but neither the predators nor their intended prey understood what was really at stake. The Vraktar believed they had found the perfect victims, while the humans were about to discover what they were truly capable of when their survival was threatened. In the depths of space, two very different ideas of what it meant to be apex predators were about to collide. Colonel Lee Tae-min stared at the radar screen in the command center, watching 3 bright dots descend through Earth's atmosphere. Around him, officers from every major nation worked frantically at their stations, speaking rapidly into headsets in a dozen different languages. This was the moment humanity had both feared and wondered about for decades. "Sir, the objects are not responding to any of our radio signals," reported Major Kim So-ra from her communication station. "They're maintaining tight formation and heading straight for populated areas. Satellite images coming through now," announced Captain Park Jae-sung. The main screen flickered to life, showing 3 dark spacecraft unlike anything ever built on Earth. They looked like giant metal sharks with glowing weapon ports along their sides, and they moved with deadly purpose. Lee Tae-min had trained for this moment his entire career, though he had always hoped first contact would be peaceful. The aggressive approach of these ships told him everything he needed to know about their intentions. "All units, this is command," he spoke into his headset with calm authority. "We have 3 hostile aircraft entering our airspace. You are authorized to engage. Repeat, weapons are free." High above the Pacific Ocean, Lieutenant Yoon Hye-jin received the order in her F-35 fighter jet. She was part of a squadron of 12 pilots who had scrambled to intercept the unknown craft. As she approached the lead alien ship, she felt her heart pounding, but her hands remained steady on the controls. Pack leader Drakmor commanded the first Vraktar hunting party from his sleek attack craft. He expected the humans to scatter in terror when they saw his ships, just like every other prey species had done. Instead, he watched in surprise as human aircraft rose to meet them in perfect formation. "Interesting," he muttered to his crew. "The prey thinks it can fight." The first energy blast from Drakmor's ship missed Yoon Hye-jin's fighter by mere meters, leaving a trail of superheated air in its wake. She felt the heat wash over her cockpit, but instead of fear, she felt something else entirely. Pure anger at these creatures who dared to attack her world. "This is Falcon 2, she radioed to her squadron. "These things want to fight. Let's show them what human pilots can do." What happened next shattered every assumption the Vraktar had about human behavior. Instead of fleeing when faced with superior firepower, the human pilots pressed their attack with a determination that seemed to ignore their own survival. When conventional weapons proved ineffective against alien shields, they began using tactics that no sane prey species would ever attempt. Yoon Hye-jin's aircraft took several hits from alien energy weapons, causing her engines to fail and her controls to malfunction. Any rational pilot would have ejected to save their own life. Instead, she pointed her dying fighter directly at the nearest Vraktar ship and pushed her throttles to maximum. "For Earth and all who call it home," she whispered and activated her afterburners one final time. The explosion that followed sent shockwaves through the alien formation. Pack leader Drakmor watched in complete disbelief as the human pilot had chosen death over retreat. In 3,000 years of galactic conquest, no prey species had ever shown such behavior. "Command, this is Drakmor," he transmitted back to the fleet. "The humans are not behaving as expected. They seem to prefer death to surrender." On the ground below, Staff Sergeant Oh Min-seok was leading his infantry squad in defense of Seoul's evacuation routes. When the alien dropships landed and began disgorging their warriors, he got his first look at humanity's enemies. They were 8 feet tall, covered in armored scales, and armed with claws that could tear through steel. Any reasonable soldier would have been terrified. Oh Min-seok felt only grim determination. "Hold the line," he shouted to his men as the alien warriors charged their position. "Remember your training and make every shot count. The Vraktar warriors expected to face cowering primitives who would break and run at the first sign of real violence. Instead, they encountered soldiers who seemed to grow calmer and more focused as the battle intensified. Every time a human fell, the others learned something new about their enemies and adjusted their tactics accordingly. Minseok noticed that the alien's armor had weak points at the joints between the scales. He passed this information to his squad even as alien. Claws tore through his body armor. When he finally fell, he was still firing his rifle, still calling out tactical advice to his surviving soldiers. The surviving Vraktar warriors found themselves in a situation they had never experienced before. The humans were learning from every exchange, adapting their methods in real time, and showing no fear of death whatsoever. Their primitive weapons, while individually weak, were being used with increasing effectiveness as the battle progressed. By the end of the first engagement, 2 of the 3 scout ships limped back to the main fleet with heavy damage and confused crews. They had technically won the battle, but the cost had been far higher than anyone expected. War Master Thekfar reviewed the battle reports with growing concern. 47 of our warriors lost to primitive weapons? How is this possible? The fire. Surviving pack leader could barely meet his superior's eyes. They fight unlike any species we have encountered, War Master. They show no fear and they learn from every mistake. They began the battle with crude tactics, but by the end they were exploiting weaknesses in our equipment that we did not even know existed. Deep in the medical bay of the flagship, wounded Vraktar warriors spoke in hushed, frightened voices about humans who kept fighting even with fatal wounds, and about eyes that showed not terror, but cold calculation that chilled their predator hearts. The Vraktar invasion fleet blotted out the sun as 500 warships descended upon Earth like metal vultures. Supreme Hunt Commander Vexithara watched from her flagship as the bombardment began, expecting to see the swift collapse of human resistance. Cities burned under alien fire, and military bases crumbled like sandcastles. This was how conquest was supposed to work. Overwhelming force applied quickly and brutally until the enemy surrendered. But within hours, something began to go terribly wrong. In the smoking ruins of Tokyo, Sergeant First Class Choi Sung-ho crouched in the shadows with his squad of 12 soldiers. They had been cut off from headquarters during the first wave of attacks, but instead of trying to escape, they had made a decision that would have shocked most species in the galaxy. They began hunting their hunters. Listen carefully, Choi whispered to his team as they hid in a collapsed building. We learned from the Seoul battle that their armor has weak spots at the neck and behind the knees. Their heat vision does not work well when temperatures change quickly. Private Lee Da-eun nodded grimly, checking the homemade explosive she had, built from scavenged materials. How do we know they will take the bait? Because they think like predators, Choi replied with a cold smile, and predators always follow blood trails. The bait was Corporal Nam Junho, who limped convincingly down the empty street, leaving drops of blood from a small cut on his arm. To the Vraktar hunting pack tracking him, he looked like wounded prey trying to find a safe place to hide. Exactly the kind of easy target they loved. Pack leader Velkar stalked through the rubble with 5 of his best warriors, following the human's scent. His thermal sensors showed the creature's heat signature just ahead, growing weaker as it bled. This would be a simple kill to boost morale after the frustrating losses they had been suffering. He never saw the buried explosives until they detonated, under his feet. As the blast sent Velkar flying, his warriors found themselves caught in crossfire from positions that had been carefully prepared and aimed in advance. But what truly shocked the surviving Vraktar was what happened next. The humans did not just kill them. They captured one alive and disappeared before help could arrive. In a hidden bunker beneath the city, Dr. Kang Min-jung worked with desperate efficiency to study Vraktar technology and biology. The captured warrior lay strapped to a table, conscious but unable to move, watching in horror as the human scientist systematically examined his species' weaknesses. Fascinating, Dr. Kang murmured as she studied the alien's nervous system. Your threat assessment is built for simple predator-prey relationships. You literally cannot understand a species that becomes more dangerous when threatened. The Vraktar warrior tried to speak, but the restraints prevented clear communication. Dr. Kang noticed his attempts and activated a translation device. "You dissect us like laboratory animals," the alien managed to whisper. "We study what threatens us," Dr. Kang replied without emotion. "Your people made that necessary when you chose to hunt ours." Across the planet, similar scenes played out as human forces showed a disturbing ability to reverse engineer alien technology. Captain Song, Hyorin's team in Seoul had modified captured Vraktar energy weapons to work with human power systems. Major Bei Wu Jin's intelligence unit had broken basic alien communication codes, but it was the psychological warfare that truly terrified the invaders. On the bridge of the flagship, War Master Thekvar brought increasingly disturbing reports to his commander. "Supreme Commander, our hunting parties are vanishing. Not just killed, completely disappeared. The humans are taking our equipment, our weapons, even our dead bodies." Vexithara's claws carved deep scratches in her command chair. "Impossible. Prey species do not hunt their predators." "With respect, Supreme Commander," Thekvar's voice carried fear that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. "I am beginning to question whether these humans are truly prey at all." The final shock came when Communications Officer Graxeth detected an impossible signal. Humans broadcasting on Vraktar military frequencies, using proper encryption, speaking in grammatically perfect Vraktar battle language. "Attention Vraktar vessels." The transmission began in flawless predator speech. "This is Colonel Yi Seo-jun of the Human Defense Force. We have studied your tactics, your technology, and your biology. We know your weaknesses, we know your fears, and we know you have never faced anything like us." The bridge fell completely silent as the human voice continued, each word pronounced perfectly in a language that should have been impossible for human vocal cords to produce. "You came to our world believing us to be prey. You made a mistake. We are not the hunted. We are the hunter you never saw coming. Your invasion ends now. Leave our system, or learn why humans became the dominant species on a world full of creatures more dangerous than you." Supreme Hunt Commander Vexithara stared at the communication panel in complete disbelief. In 3,000 years of galactic conquest, no prey species had ever learned their language, much less used it to deliver threats. Around her, the bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Reports continued to pour in of human forces using captured Vraktar equipment with increasing skill, of hunting parties that disappeared without a trace, of psychological warfare tactics that targeted their deepest fears. For the first time in her long life as the galaxy's supreme predator, Vexithara felt something she had never experienced before, the cold, creeping sensation of being prey herself. The hunter had become the hunted, and Earth's children were proving to be far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had ever imagined. The interrogation chamber aboard the Vraktar flagship was designed to break the spirit of any prisoner. Torture devices lined the walls, and the air hummed with menace. Dr. Han Soo-jin sat calmly in the restraint chair, her hands bound but her eyes alert and unafraid. Around her, 3 towering Vraktar warriors loomed like nightmares made flesh. Supreme Hunt Commander Vexithara circled her captive like a predator studying wounded prey. After weeks of humiliating defeats, she had finally captured someone important. A human scientist whose knowledge might explain how these weak creatures had learned to fight so effectively. "You will tell us your secrets," Vexithara demanded, extending her razor claws until they nearly touched Dr. Han's throat. "No prey species learns war tactics so quickly without help from advanced civilizations. Who taught you to fight, Dr. Han?" Soo-jin looked up at her captor with eyes that showed no fear, only a strange curiosity that made the alien commander uncomfortable. "You still do not understand what we are, do you? You keep calling us prey, but you have no idea what that word really means. Silence." War Master Thekvar struck the metal chair, leaving deep claw marks. "We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We know prey when we see it." "No," Dr. Han replied calmly. "You know other predators when you see them. That is why you are losing this war so badly." The interrogation continued for hours, with the Vraktar becoming more frustrated as their prisoner remained completely composed. Finally, Dr. Han spoke without being asked. Would you like to know why you are losing? It is because you do not understand what humans really are. Vexithara leaned closer, her predatory instincts telling her this was important information. Explain, or we will make your death very slow. You evolved as apex predators, Dr. Han began, speaking like a teacher giving a lesson. Superior strength, natural weapons, enhanced senses. You dominated your world through genetic advantages that other species could not match. But humans took a completely different path. She paused, studying the alien faces around her with scientific interest. We did not evolve claws or fangs or armored skin. We evolved something far more dangerous, the ability to adapt to any environment and never give up no matter what. Impossible, Tekvar snarled, though his voice lacked conviction. Without natural weapons, your species should have died out long ago. That is where you are wrong, Dr. Han smiled, and somehow the expression made the hardened warriors step backward. Earth did not produce apex predators like your world did. Earth produced something much worse. It produced persistence hunters. The translation of this term into Vraktar caused visible discomfort among her captors. In their language, persistence, hunter carried frightening meanings, something unnatural that violated the proper order of strong and weak. Do you know what a persistence hunter is? Dr. Han continued. It is a creature that wins not through superior strength or speed, but by never stopping. We evolved to chase our prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. We learned to track, to use tools, to work together, and most importantly, we learned to never quit. She gestured as much as her restraints allowed. Your people hunt for sport, for territory, for dominance. But when humans hunt, we hunt for survival. And we have been doing it for 200,000 years on a world that tried to kill us every single day. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Dr. Han's words carried a weight that made the Vraktar warriors exchange nervous glances. Every ice age, every drought, every natural disaster that should have wiped us out only made us stronger. We learned to make fire from nothing, weapons from rocks, shelter from animal skins. We learned to cooperate because working together was the only way to survive. And most importantly, we learned that any problem could be solved if we refused to give up. Vexithara's voice was barely a whisper. What are you telling us? I am telling you that you did not invade a world of prey animals, Dr. Han replied, meeting each alien's eyes in turn. You invaded a world of persistence hunters who have spent thousands of generations learning how to kill things bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than themselves. You woke up something your galaxy has never seen before, a species that became apex predators not through evolution, but through pure determination. The implications of her words settled over the chamber like a dark cloud. The Vraktar had built their empire on the belief that natural selection created clear hierarchies: predator over prey, strong over weak, hunter over hunted. The idea that a species could choose to become apex predators through willpower alone challenged everything they believed about the natural order. Your people made one fatal mistake, Dr. Han continued. You looked at us and saw weakness because we had no claws or fangs. But humans learned long ago that survival does not depend on how you are born. It depends on how hard you are willing to fight to stay alive. As if called by her words, alarm systems began blaring throughout the ship. Communications officer, Graxeth's voice echoed through the chamber. Supreme Commander, human forces have cut through our hull. They are boarding the ship. Vexithara spun toward the exit, but Dr. Han's voice stopped her cold. They are coming for me, are they not? Just like I knew they would. Because that is what persistence hunters do. We never abandon our pack, and we never stop coming for what belongs to us. The sound of human weapons grew closer with each passing second. For the first time in her life, Supreme Hunt Commander Vexithara finally understood what it felt like to be prey. 6 months after the failed invasion of Earth, the once mighty Vraktar Empire was crumbling like a house built on sand. Human forces had not simply driven off the invaders. They had followed them across the galaxy, bringing freedom to every world they touched. Admiral M.J. Biom stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, humanity's first interstellar warship. Built from captured alien technology and human engineering, through the large windows he could see the Vraktar homeworld of Kethvar below. Its cities no longer dark with the smoke of oppression, but bright with the fires of liberation. Status report, Admiral M requested calmly. Local resistance forces have taken control of all major spaceports, reported Captain Hong Min Seo from her station. The Vraktar military is retreating on all fronts. Intelligence says about 70% of their remaining fleet has fled to deep space. What about the civilian populations? Moving to safe zones as planned, sir. We have had no unnecessary casualties among non-combatants. This was perhaps the most shocking thing about humanity's counterattack. They had not come as conquerors seeking revenge, but as liberators offering hope. Every world the humans reached became a beacon of freedom for species that had suffered under Vraktar rule for generations. On the planet's surface, Lieutenant Colonel Park Jin-woo worked with leaders of the Veltari resistance movement. The crystal-like beings had been among the first victims of Vraktar expansion, their beautiful homeworld strip-mined and their people enslaved for 800 years. Now, armed with human weapons and tactics, they were finally free. The last Vraktar fortress has surrendered, reported Veltari Commander Zikthan, her crystalline body ringing like bells with the music of victory. Our people are free for the first time in centuries. Freedom is just the beginning, Park Jin-woo replied seriously. Now comes the harder work of building something better than what came before. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out, as the Vraktar Empire collapsed under pressure from both human forces and internal rebellions. The predator species that had ruled through fear and superior firepower found themselves completely unprepared for enemies who fought not for conquest, but for principles they believed in. In the depths of space, aboard the last intact Vraktar command ship, Supreme Hunt Commander Vexthara met with what remained of her once great fleet. The proud predator who had planned to harvest humanity now bore the scars of total defeat. "How many ships do we still have?" she asked tiredly. 47 vessels out of the original 5,000, War Master Thekvar reported. His voice carried none of its former arrogance. "The humans have convinced half the galaxy to fight against us. Even species we had enslaved for centuries have joined their cause. And our homeworld? Lost completely. The humans have established what they call a provisional government made up of representatives from all the species we had conquered. They say they will leave once a democratic system is working properly." Vexithara laughed bitterly. Democracy. They defeat the greatest predator empire in galactic history and then give the power away to others. These humans truly are unlike anything we have ever seen. As if summoned by their conversation, the ship's communication system activated. The image of Admiral Im Jae-byum appeared on the main screen, his expression serious but not cruel. "Supreme Hunt Commander Vexithara," he began in perfect Vraktar language. "I am Admiral Im of the United Earth Fleet. I have come with an offer for you and your people." "We will never surrender," Vexithara snarled, though her words had lost their bite. "I am not asking you to surrender," Admiral Im replied calmly. "I am offering you a choice. Your empire is finished. That much is clear to everyone. But your people do not have to disappear with it." The bridge fell silent as the human admiral continued speaking. "The galaxy needs protectors, not predators. Your species has shown great strength and discipline. Those qualities, used for the right purposes, could serve something better than conquest and destruction. You would trust us after everything we have done?" Thekvar asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "Trust must be earned over time," Admiral Im replied. "But redemption is always possible for those willing to change their ways. The choice is yours. Flee to the edge of the galaxy and fade into history, or help us build something better than what existed before." The transmission ended, leaving the Vraktar leadership in stunned silence. The concept of redemption was foreign to their culture, which had always believed that strength alone determined worth. 3 days later, a small group of Vraktar ships approached human lines under a flag of truce. They carried a message from Vexithara herself, requesting permission to speak with human leaders about the future. On Earth, in the halls of the newly formed Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of species worked together to write laws that would prevent another empire like the Vrektar from ever rising again. Humans sat at the table not as rulers but as equals, having proven that true strength came not from the ability to dominate others, but from the wisdom to protect those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy had found its new apex species, but these apex predators were unlike any that had come before. They were persistence hunters who had learned that the greatest victory was not conquest, but the creation of a universe where no one had to live in fear. Humanity had become the guardians of the galaxy, and under their protection, 1,000 worlds began to dream of better tomorrows.